How's it going, YouTube? Coming soon today with another video, and today, guys, what the video is my full report on my event at the Kentucky PPG. Now, I just want to stop for a second and say thank you all so very much for everyone that walked up to me and got a race signed. It really just means the world to me to see all of you and to really meet a lot of my community. It's just one of those things where just when I started out to where I am now, it's just such a long ride so far, and I just can't believe where we're at. And, you know, it was just so much fun. I really did love this event this weekend, and it's been so long since we've been able to play, right? I know that I wasn't able to do the vlog. I did a lot of recording for the vlog, but some of the video and the audio is really shoddy, so I didn't really want to post it because it just wasn't that good. I'm going to be a lot more prepared next time because it was my first attempt at a vlog, so next time for sure, I'm going to make sure that that gets done properly. I do apologize about that, but that's not going to stop us from doing a full report on what happened at the PPG. So I do appreciate each and every one of you, and especially those that I met this weekend, because that was so phenomenal. If you have not already picked up a mat, go to the Imperium Duelist website, which is down in the description below. Go ahead and get your very own GG Striker mat today. Use code GGYGO10. What a beautiful piece of art, and I appreciate all the orders so far. You guys are rock stars, so thank you all so much for that. Without further ado, let's hop into my very round one of the event. This was such a interesting round one, to say the least. We were playing as Eldlich, but it wasn't Cybers, it wasn't Brave, it was just like 40 card Floodgate Eldlich, like triple drain. It was pretty interesting because he goes set 3 reveal prison pass. I go normal Ray, he goes skill drain, and I was just like, okay, Duster, and then just kind of 1-0'd that matchup, you know. And then we went to the next game, and he goes set 5, and I was like, okay, and I drew Twin, Ray, Engage, Ash, Bell. I was like, I don't see how I lose this. And I go normal summon Ray, and he goes Sangan. I was like, Ash. And then he goes flip skill drain, and I was like chain twin, and then I hit goes in and skill, and I was just like, wow, that's a skill in its own self. So I mean, at that point, you know, it was a very quick wrap up of game one, and it was just really nice because I still wanted to meet a lot of people, and it felt so good whenever you sit down at your round one, and it's just like a matchup that you deem very easy for your deck. So you know, it was pretty nice, but just the pure Eldlich deck is what we versed round one, and it was a very, very quick match. I think it didn't even last 10 minutes. So I do like these matchups though, because you know, sometimes, especially the PPG, they did a fantastic job of how fast the rounds were going. I couldn't even record for like 3 or 4 rounds sometimes because you would get done and like a minute later there'd be like next round's up, and you'd be like, oh my god, like you had to be there, right? Like it was crazy. And it was just a very smooth event. Like the way they ran it was phenomenal. So if you're watching this, good job, because those events were great. Moving on to round 2, I did not misplay the entire event. The only time I actually did was against D2D because I didn't know what a card did. Referring to Headhunt, it cost me game 1 because I knew Headhunt stole. I did not know that it negated. So I had an opportunity. I had Anchor, Rose, Drone, and I wanted to just like finish him out right in that turn. And so I stole the Machinex, I had normal summon Rose, and then I made Zeke and then threatened his Exceed, the one that was Solemn Warning. And then he headhunted my Zeke, and then I was like, alright, cool, I have Drone, you lose here, because I could add back Engage and just like kill. And then he was like, no, headhunt negates. And I was like, it negates? What do you mean it negates? And then he took my Zeke, and then I was like, Hornet, and he goes Caesar, and I was like, oh, I'm dead. And then I had to like reverse 2-0, which I did, and I won. But like, man, that was really close. That was the only time in the entire event that I ever just did something not so great, you know? But we did end up pulling this one out. The guy that I played against, by the way, was super cool. Really happy with that one. Because that matchup, it was just a lot of fun, you know. It was a great time. So that matchup alone, though, I did a big oof, but we still managed to pull out the win, so that was super cool. Moving on to our round 3, though, we ended up playing against the 60 card PK pile. Now, round 1, game 1, I ended up activating Mystic Mind, okay? So this pile was going like Cherubini, like Isolde, like his end board was okay. It was like Appaloosa, I think like IP, like a back row, and maybe DPE. And I was like, okay. So I was like, main phase 1. He goes, sure. I was like, burner DPE. He's like, okay. I was like, activate mine. He was like, yeah. And so then we sat there for like 7 minutes, and I got like anchor Ray, stole his monsters, summoned Ray, and killed. And then there's 15 minutes on the clock, and my opponent walked away from the table because he didn't want to play game 2. And I was like, okay. Like, he just got up and left because I mined him game 1. I was like, I guess, you know, like, sure. Really interesting though. I saw Zolde hit the board, and I was like, okay. Because like when I hear 60 cards, right, I'm assuming like one of the decks that have actually been like tested and played. But now I'm seeing like Zolde. I'm like, what is gonna happen here? You know, like what's the end board about to be? But you know, Mystic Mine is an animal, so it was definitely working out this weekend. Let me tell you, Mystic Mine was crazy. So beat this matchup, and then we go into the next one, which was the 3-access Sangan Turbo. Now, mind you, I have never played against this deck before this event. I have never once played against this deck. I have never once like heard much about this deck. The only thing that I knew was that if they were playing the 3-access Sangan, they were on Arborea. And I was like, okay, so just look out for Arborea or Sangan, and then you kind of know what you're playing against. And I was like, nice. So I don't really know what the board it makes is, but I'm assuming it's going to be something along the lines of like a base board, maybe. So I remember game 1, he like set up his board, and I go burner target token, and I cleared his Draco back, and then I activate mine, and we sat under mine forever, and then he scooped, and I was like, okay. And then we go game 2, and he tried to combo, and I opened up Ash Bell, and then Ash and Bell went in, and then I summoned Ray, and it was over. So pretty insane. Double hand trap and setting up anchor with 3 spells engraved is pretty insane. That's all I'm saying. So with this matchup though, it was really interesting because if you don't exactly know what you're playing against, it can get pretty scary because you need to know what they're ending on and what they're trying to do and where to hand trap. But you kind of have to read that on the fly, because if you don't really know what's going on, you have to be like, all right, these are the cards that I do know, and these are the cards that could potentially end up on, right? So definitely a fun matchup at the very least, because I didn't see it before, right? So still got the dub there, but it was definitely interesting to not know what I was playing against at the time. The next matchup was against Prank Kid. Prank Kid absolutely, like, this matchup is abysmal for strikers. So I tried to build to beat it, and game 1, we got into the longest grind that I've ever had in a game, I think. It ended up being with me being at like 450, and then I burned because of Lampsies, and I lost right there. Which, I mean, shout outs to the matchup, because right there, if he didn't burn me, I looked at my top deck for the next turn, and it was engaged, and it was about to be over. So, because he was really low too. So, I mean, like, it would have went either way. He ended up hitting Lampsies first, so it was unfortunate. And then game 2, I just didn't see Ray. I only didn't see Ray 3 times the entire weekend, and all 3 times I lost horribly. Big shout outs to the 3v3 though. I didn't put the 3v3 in this because it was just like only 5 rounds, but there was a moment in the 3v3 where I beat a Flunder player, and I used Desires. I banished Ray drone, and I normal Rose, and then send Ray off Hayate. He clears my Link, and then bells my Ray, and then I summon Rose. He clears my Link again. I had to play that matchup with no Ray. And so I ended up making access code because I stole his bird. I summoned D-Shifter out of his graveyard, made Dark, re-summoned D-Shifter, normal summoned an Ogre, made access code, and killed. And I was like, did I really just win with no raid? That's insane. So that was a lot of fun. But I did end up dropping the match versus Prank Kid here. Definitely unfortunate, but I wasn't going to let it hurt my spirits as we were still moving up pretty high. And, you know, we're already on to round 6 at this point. So I definitely felt really confident with the rest of the tournament. Then round 6 happened, and the person I was playing against goes normal Arborea, and I was like, okay, it's 3-access again. And so then he goes, make Maggie a summon Draco, and I was like, wait, you're actually playing Crusadia? He goes, yes. This guy was playing Brave Crusadia and he was X1. I was like, yo. So it was one of those things too where, you know how when you watch my videos and I know like all these different matchups and like where to hand trap every deck, it's because of my time in the game and my experience. So he was really surprised when I knew how to hand trap Crusadia and how to play around it, because I played back in Summon Sork format back in 2019, because at that point I already knew what the Crusadias did, right? So then I was like making Kagari and adding back like Engage and then doing like multi-roll send Kagari, and he was like getting kind of flustered because he wanted to kaiju and go Equimax and kill me, but I wasn't giving him the opportunity. And I was sitting on like I kept resetting Anchor with multi-roll, and I kept stealing his normal summon so he couldn't do like the big Equimax play, because you can't let him hit Equimax because they can distribute a card. So I was just like, man, like I'm so glad that I just knew what this deck did, because otherwise this would be abysmal. So like he had like a lot of gas, but I just really knew how to play around this matchup. So I felt so fortunate, because this matchup can be pretty scary with the amount of kaijus that this deck can just run and board breaks. So we ended up 2-0ing it, especially because like the round 1, I ended up just mining him, and I was just like, it's got to be enough. And they didn't have the out because he activated Draco back and I activated Cosmic. So it's like, nice. But this was definitely something that caught me off guard at a left field. So a lot of fun, but definitely pretty crazy to see it. Big shout outs, by the way, to the top 16 having 2 Plunder Patrol and 1 Sun Avalon. That was pretty cool. Pretty cool. So round 7, big shout outs to Clifton Land. Played against him in the 3v3 and the mid event. He waxed me both times. So it was funny though. Our games went essentially the same way both times. Game 1 and both of them, I Mystic Mind. He activated Pranks at Cosmic. He activated Draco back at Cosmic, and then I won game 1. And then the second time it was game 3, the first time it was game 2, and I had Engage, Hornet, and Ray. I activate Engage, he Ashes. I normal Ray, he Judgments, and I activate Drone, he Judgments, and then I just lost. That was crazy. He just played out of his mind, and honestly, it was such a pleasure meeting him too. Really great guy, and you know, Prank Kids is easily my worst matchup. But, you know, we were trying the best that we could this weekend against it, and it was one of those things where we just couldn't pull off the win there. But it was still a lot of fun. That matchup in itself was really fun. You know, just the banter at the table and just really enjoying, like, IRL Yu-Gi-Oh! Again at, like, a higher table. So I was having a blast. I did end up losing this match here. And then what knocked me out ended up being the round 8 tournament match here. I was playing against Cody Manabi, which was another great guy, honestly. Like, I met so many cool people this weekend, but he was playing the 3-axis Sangan Turbo, and this matchup was crazy. So I ended up opening up like an amazing hand game 1. It was like Ray, Shark, Widow, Burner, and I think like Roll, something along those lines. And then like I drew for turn, and it was like I want to say like Imperm. And his board was so big, like the amount of interruption he had, like it just wasn't happening. I tried to break the board, ended up not being able to break the board, and then I ended up getting killed that next turn. And then we went to game 2 and just did not draw optimally. So it was a very quick match, and I ended up getting knocked out right there. But this was still a really, really fun time. I was having a great tournament. And then we ended up just sitting down for round 9. No one showed up. So we ended up X3 on the day. You know, not obviously the result that I want to see. I was 1 win away from being in top cut. So, you know, that always sucks to be in the bubble. But we are looking forward into the next events coming up. There's a lot of regionals. There's a lot of YCSs. So, you know, we're keeping our head up high. I think that the list performed really well. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. I'm going to be showing off all the people that I met this weekend. Big shout outs to everyone that was actually there. You know, seeing Gage was really cool. Really great guy. Seeing Cody for the first time, that was really cool. You know, we've been playing a lot of Apex and whatnot and talking online. So to finally be able to meet some of these people, it has just been a blast. Really, really fun time. I ended up meeting my Discord mod, Saint Matrix. Really fun too. Then we have Jeff Leonard over here. Super cool. I had to get the picture. You already know, because, you know, the man, the myth, the legend. So that was really cool. I met Prisco. I met the DB Grinder as well. And then I also met Clifton Land. He had the picture of Solemn Judgment. This thing will be in my nightmares, let me tell you. And then Pack himself. So really, really cool event to be able to meet everyone. I'm very thankful to be able to have everyone at that event, and it was just such a great time. It really was. Moving on to my list here. This ended up being X3. This was the final list that I submitted. I ended up going with the Mystic Mine in the main at 5, essentially, because of set rotation and the terraforming. I don't really think that anything underperformed, honestly. I think that everything went really well. Our main losses were to the Prank Kid matchups, and that's already my worst one. So, like, losing to those doesn't really feel particularly bad, because any of the other matches, besides, like, that 1-3 Access matchup, his list was nuts. Like, he literally just had, like, everything. It was crazy. But everything else, though, it went really well. Honestly, I had a really great event. The list worked out really, really well. There's going to be some tweaking that I'm going to do, but I think that I'll stick with this for a little while longer until I come across some new theory. There's a couple things that I'm testing out right now that I'm going to be seeing if they work on stream here soon. So I do hope that you enjoyed today's video but just the breakdown of how the event went, because it was a really fun event, honestly. I had a great time. If you've not already, definitely go ahead and join my Discord, follow my Twitch, my Twitter, and then if you do want a coaching session on Metafy, definitely go down in the description below and go look at what I offer. I'm definitely open to doing sessions all the time. If there's a specific time that you need, definitely PM me and let me know so we can get that worked out for you. Everything's in the description below, though, so I hope that everyone has a wonderful night, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you all so much for being here, and I love you all. Thanks.